There we go. This is where we had ended on Friday. We had attached the legs on and we had built up the hips and the tummy a little bit. We then went in and we coiled the neck. You could see the coils actually inside there, how they built up the neck area. Now we are going to be modifying this a little bit as we go ahead and attach the head on. But first we want to leave this as just a general area to attach the head. And we are going to actually go in and do some sculptural methods to attach the head. This was my one that I started working with the head during 4th block. It still needs a little work on it, but you could see how I went in and I started to use the neck to build the head off. So we're gonna go over how to form this part in this video. Okay, and this is my little hippo. This one's a little smaller. Oh, you're okay. All right, so to make the head, we're gonna do a little bit different of a technique. We went in and we first had hollowed these out, connected them as pinch pots, then we coiled this forward. Now we're gonna go in and we are just gonna sculpt. So I'm gonna just try to get the basic shape of William's head just by sculpting it in my hands. So looking from a picture, you could see the side view and you can also see the front view. I'm gonna focus on the front view first and then the side view. And you guys should have all of these images in your PowerPoint presentation that I uploaded into Google Classroom. So I'm gonna go in and I'm just gonna kind of start tapping this into shape and just kind of forming it with my hands. So I wanna know that like the snout is kind of large, but we do want to taper it down. So I'm gonna gradually start pulling clay back away. And you want to really kind of focus on the photographs, and I'm going to kind of just like tap this in place, just kind of work it and sculpt it and, you know, really focus on what I see in the picture. And this is more when like free sculpting would come in to play in class, where you're really just trying to like model a general shape, and then we'll go in and we'll carve from it and we'll add to it a little bit. But I'm kind of starting with the head shape here and lining it up. That's definitely you know, too large, so I'm gonna keep smoothing back. To create a nose shape that's gonna work with it. And his little nose here, schnoz, kind of looks almost like, I don't know, like a hammerhead shark it reminds me of. So I'm kind of like trying to go out with those shapes and like push inward. And depending on how much clay you started with, it may not be so much thinning. It may be adding some clay on as well. So I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna take a little bit of clay and I'm gonna compress it into the sides and I'm gonna smooth that in. Kind of builds that out. And once you guys get like the head on, that's kind of the last part before we go in and do the underglaze details. we'll just touch it up a little bit tomorrow. But you could see it's still solid. We're gonna go in and we're gonna hollow it out, but I wanna really work my form and make sure that it's gonna be pretty accurate. It's kind of rounded over here. And eventually we're going to hollow this out and make it almost like a little bit of a pinch pot form so that we could stretch it over the neck. So I'm just adding these little pieces on to make the nose stick out more. So we're going places. We're going places. Okay. Now I'm going to kind of go in and look from the side here. So we're definitely going to want to shorten this up. And the first thing I'm going to do is go in and hollow this out. So we're going to go in with our ribbon tool. And take your time sculpting. I'm just kind of showing you guys the basics so that you have everything you need to work with after class. I'm just going to scoop this out, and the reason that I want to scoop it out is because it is a hollow form. I'm not a hollow form, a solid form, and we want to make it nice and hollow so that there's not any little mini surprise air pockets in there that'll go kaboom. And we will go over tomorrow where we want to put our air holes so that the air can easily escape in the kiln. So I'm just carving this out. It's about like yay. Carve one more out. All right. So now that I carved this out, I am able to use my hands on the inside to start to manipulate the form. And that's why I said I'm going to kind of treat it like a pinch pot almost, because I could go in and I could push against the clay and I could work with it that way. Kind of smoothing this down towards the neck. And we're eventually going to kind of cut this piece and trim this piece a little bit. I might even just go in and kind of break it off a little. And once it's attached, we will work on it more as well. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna take a little piece of this bottom off. And I'm just gonna kind of scoop it away. So I should have something that kind of looks like that. And I'm gonna line it up with there, see how it starts to fit. And I'm gonna take some off of the top as well. Two little half circles. So now we have the sides that we're going to use for the neck, and we are going to use these pieces that are attached to the head as the actual neck for this. I'm going to go in, and I'm going to slant this down a little bit. And you're just going to kind of line it up where you feel like you should in accordance to the picture. So I think that this needs to go down. I'm going to still take a little bit more off. And still kind of keep the shape of it. So I'm going to go ahead in, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just smooth this to the bottom part first. To the very, very bottom, okay? So I'm gonna flip it over, and I'm gonna start smoothing in and pulling all of this clay back. And I really wanna pull a bunch of it back, get a really nice chin. And I do feel like my little snout's still a little too big. I'll probably go in and shave it down a little bit. So I went in, I smoothed the underside. And now I'm gonna have this little hole here. And the reason I left that here is because his head kind of goes boop, up. So rather than just leaving the neck how it was, we want to create a coil that's fairly thick to kind of transition into the head portion. So I'm just gonna carry this over, and I'm gonna cut it off like that so it's just on the top. If you guys feel like you need to squeeze it out a little bit, you can. Or even if you want to fill it in a little bit before the coil, you could do that too. I'm just gonna add a little bit of extra clay. Now, you guys might notice that it gets a little bit top heavy, so you really want to make sure that all this clay underneath you're smoothing back into the body. You can also always add a little bit of clay towards the back and just smooth it in to create a more balanced weight. So now I got my little guy going on here. And I'm actually gonna add a little bit of extra clay to mine in the back here and just really, really blend it in, really compress it in so there's no air in there. That way I have a little bit more clay balancing it out. Another thing if you guys are having, you know what, I think mine. If you guys are having any trouble getting like your head to stand on its own right away while you're working on it, you could take some clay like this and create a little armature and just have something to rest on so it's not gonna fall off. And then when you remove it, it'll be fine. But try to make sure it's balanced out. If it starts to unbalance, add some clay to the back. All right, back to the coil. I'm gonna take a thick coil. And I'm going to place it just over the area that needs to be covered. And I'm gonna smooth it down and back. So down and back. And if you guys find that, you know, you're modeling it a little differently, that's okay. You know, this is just kind of the techniques I would go about using. But everyone models things a little differently. We just want to make sure that they're not solid. So I'm gonna really use a lot of this clay and blend this in before I then go ahead and blend it down into the head. And blend it back. Now I'm gonna go ahead in and I'm gonna very lightly, make sure you like hold under the chin. And I'm going to slowly, very delicately smooth this down. And you'll notice you'll start to get that head shape. Now, like I said, my little snout is definitely a little too big. I was kind of made it the same size as the one I was working on earlier, but you know what? That's okay. I could easily go ahead and trim a little bit off. So, if you do want to go in and take any of your clay off, you could go in and use your ribbon tool and then just smooth it. Yeah, I want to take that off. All right. And then I'll smooth them up. But that snout was too big. Too big of a snout for William. And usually too, when I sculpt, I'll get general shapes like this and then really go in and look at the image and adjust things as they need to be adjusted, carve away, smooth in, take away, additive, subtractive processes. And now I'm gonna just make sure I really go in and smooth this up well. Maybe pinch it together a little bit more. And I think that's getting a lot closer to the shape that I want it to be. So now I'm gonna go in and just try to like even up the sides. And that could mean adding some clay or carving some away before I add the eyes in. So I noticed that the forehead through here kind of goes in flat down with the nose. So I'm just gonna kind of pull that down. I feel like that needs to be smoothed in a little bit more because the other side was smoothed in a little bit more. And I think I might even still take some clay off the front. I just kind of used my hands to do that, and then I'm going to smooth it all back. And then just making sure still that his jaw is nice and curved. Now, as far as features, majority of them are just patterns painted on. However, I will show you how to add little ears and two little eyeballs on there. I think I'm gonna kind of go with this for my general shape right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna take the front and I'm gonna kind of make little marks right where I think the ears should go. And I'm just gonna take little pieces of clay, stick them on like that, and smooth them in back and front, so it all gels together. I don't want to see any lines there. Just the little ear that's really smoothed in like that. So you could see I don't have any lines. And then I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna do the very same thing on the other one. And his ears are really tiny. I might even sculpt back a little bit. But you can make it your own. But just make sure it's nice and smooth because we will be painting on them. So I'm gonna put my other one in right here and then just do the same thing, smooth forward and smooth backwards. So we just have these two like little generic ear shapes now. And right under those ears are his eyes. And for those, we're gonna make two little itty bitty eyeballs. And I'm gonna make them kind of on a little bit of a slant, like that. If you have some slip, you could go ahead in and use that. I don't have any right now, so I'm just gonna kind of stick it on there for now. And make sure that it's kind of slanted outward. And I'm going to make both of them so they're approximately the same size. Still kind of staying on like a little bit of a slant. And then we're gonna make an eyelid. And the eyelid's gonna help it stay. If you guys have some water, you could even like dip it in water and then do it that way. But we're gonna put that one slanting the opposite way. And everything on this sculpture is smoothed in. I'm gonna have to really touch this part up through here. Sculpt it up. But then I'm gonna take little coils and I'm going to create eyelids. And just like the ears, the eyelids are really, really smoothed in. They're pretty much part of the eye itself. And I'm gonna just add that in. And I'm gonna smooth it into the eye and into the ear. So it should almost cover completely. You guys could use little tools to do this. But you do want to make sure it's smooth, however, it also looks separate. So now this all became like one shape. We're gonna have to smooth underneath now. And you guys could look at the eyes and kind of work them how you want to work them. But they pretty much become just like one general shape, all blended together. I was just kind of giving like all of the different building blocks. And then we're just gonna kind of smooth it so it's all really, really smooth for you to go ahead and paint on. So rather than just like sticking an eye on, we want to make sure we build it up like this so that we have something three-dimensional to paint on. So I'm going to use the same exact thing for the other side. And you could even push out a little bit more for the ears if you want to. I'm going to go in and I'm going to have to push out more for the jaw. But just so you guys can kind of see a little bit of the sculpture process. I'm going in and I'm going to do the same exact thing. And then even smoothing it into the eye, because you could see that it's not really separated, it's separated by the paint. So tomorrow we're going to be adding in any of the air holes we need to. We'll be refining anything you guys need help with. And we're going to have all day Thursday and Friday to paint. If you guys are finished earlier and want to start painting earlier, that's fine too. We're just gonna wanna water down that underglaze a little bit because I bet that it's not super like fluid anymore. So yeah, once you get all the pieces on, just kind of sculpt it. Work with it, see how you feel. I'm definitely gonna work a lot with these eyes in the front now. I guess I should face this way. Okay. So I'm gonna carve away a bit now. Down there. Maybe I'll take a little bit off the eye. Yeah, I like that better. And that's the good thing about like free shaping and modeling is that, you know, your clay, you could just change it. So hopefully you guys could kind of see where I'm going with this and understanding how to attach the head. I am going to work on refining this tomorrow with you and, you know, just showing you guys how to finish everything, making all the air holes, making any little adjustments, because I definitely need to make some adjustments on here. But I encourage you guys to continue working on it a little bit tonight. Make sure that you do have all of your pieces attached so that you will be good and ready to go.